organized by CIVOM. I am Akshay Bajaj and I serve as the co-founder of Global Learning Space Network. This LinkedIn Live is dedicated to celebrating the occasion of Global Day of Parents 2025. On this day, we honor the quiet strength and everyday leadership of parents, the original architects of learning and belonging. A tribute to those who teach before schools do, parents, whose presence, patience, and purpose lay the foundation for lifelong learning. The theme of today's session is the collaborative classroom, how parents and design are shaping future learners. So let's do the Shubharam and welcome the terrific trio of guest speakers we have today. On first, we have Ms. Lavanya Gupta. We're delighted to welcome Lavanya Gupta, founder and CEO of Silana Learning, whose work sits at a powerful intersection of learning, leadership, and digital well being. With experience spanning Meta, Stanford, and the United Nations, Lavanya now empowers parents through research based programs on tech and media literacy. Her groundbreaking course, How to Protect Your Child Online, is helping families build safer, more intentional digital lives rooted in both insight and empathy. Welcome to this session, Lavanya ma'am. It's such an honor to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. On second, we have Ms. Kirti Pabrekar-Patil. We are privileged to welcome Ms. Kirti, Assistant General Manager at Ecofirst Services, a Tata enterprise. Raised in a humble, education-focused household, Kirti's journey into sustainable architecture was profoundly influenced by her father's dedication to mentoring youth across Maharashtra. This foundation instilled in her a passion for nurturing the next generation, evident in her dual roles as a sustainability leader and educator. Her work not only buildings but also embodying enduring impact of parental guidance and mentorship. Welcome to this live session, Kirti ma'am. It's such an honor to have you. And finally, we have Mr. Yogendra Patidar. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Yogendra Patidar, Director of CIVOM and a Business World 40 Under 40 honoree. Through his innovative work in transforming learning spaces, Yogendra and his venture CIVOM are creating environments that foster learning and growth, reflecting the nurturing spirit of parenthood. His dedication to shaping the future of education resonates deeply on this day as we honor the pivotal role of parents in guiding and inspiring the next generation. Yogi sir, welcome to this session. It's such an honor to have you here.
Namaskar. Namaskar, everyone.
So this session is divided into three wonderful themes of 15 minutes each, and in every theme, we'll have 5 minutes devoted to each panelist to share their interesting questions and also engage fruitful discussions among them. So let's get started with the first theme of this session. The first theme is the evolving landscape of parental engagement. And the first question goes to Ms. Lavanya. Lavanya, from your experience at Silana Learning, how have you seen the role of parents evolve in the digital learning space? And what are the key demands or expectations parents now have regarding content, curriculum, and accessibility? All yours.
Yeah, that's a great question, Akshay. I think over the past several years, as technology has become more available to children around the world, whether it is using computers or tablets or even phones now, the digital landscape has been evolving very rapidly for children. So children can now learn many things online. Some of them are very good, some of them are not so good. And the more privileged private schools are now starting to introduce computers and ed tech in the classroom, and so children have tools now that can teach them. For example, they can learn French even if they don't have a French teacher present in the school. They can learn new ways of learning math and coding. So the everyday experience for children is changing rapidly in school, and it's based around this digital evolution. But in some schools around the world, this is actually happening at a very young age. So right from from kindergarten, children are being given an iPad, and so they're using technology at very young ages. And from a parent's perspective, most of us want our children to be digitally literate, right? So we know that the world is changing. AI is now rapidly evolving, and we want our children to be able to use online tools, to be comfortable in an online digital environment, to know how to code and now to know how to interact with AI also effectively. And we don't want our children to be left behind, right? So the expectation from parents is that the school will facilitate some of this digital learning for children and incorporate it into their everyday experience. And then when they come home, we as parents want them to continue that. So we'll give them access to an iPad or to a computer in the hope that they will continue to use edtech tools and learn new things online. And so while this is very good in many ways, I think there are also a lot of risks associated with it. Some are around safety, but also some are around what it means to now be learning from AI versus a human teacher. And so I think that is something that parents and educators and schools need to be constantly thinking about and balancing, because not every child learns the same way. And children need to have that human connection when they are learning, because a lot of what happens and what a teacher notices for a child is not something necessarily that AI can see or AI can understand about a child. So if a child is struggling, or if they're having difficulties at home and they come to school and they're upset, a teacher notices that, right? But that's not something that your computer is going to see and be able to help with.
Quite commendable answer on the rise of digital learning environments and how every child has a different way to learn, as well as how the computer cannot observe or understand what the child is going through at home. So commendable answer. And the next question coming up for Yogi sir is, so from CIVOM's perspective, what are the most significant trends you are observing in how parents are actively seeking to collaborate with educational institutions, and what's driving this shift towards more integrated and future focused learning experiences? Over to you, sir.
It's a great thought, and this is all upcoming thoughts in how we're shaping the learning spaces and learning both together. So it's like today when you go to a doctor, you go with Google, Snapchat, or something which is like, if I have this disease, should be my medication. So similarly, when we talk to school, or when you see parents, they're coming with a screenshot. Why does your school looks like this? That's what coming. So I believe that today parents are kind of shift getting at that idea of there being co-creator. They are co-director of when you talk about physical spaces or learning to be shaped around. So I would say today parenting is very informed one. Okay, technology bringing a lot of knowledge to them. They know what's happening in Finland, what is Reggio Emilio, what is Waldorf, what is Montessori, how all of this is getting connected now. So they understand this, and they're discerning about it. They wanted to know what's future for my kid, because everything is shaping so fast. As a parent, you take more responsibility that what is that future for my kid. So they're learning a lot. They're gaining a lot of insights around it. So a informed approach of the parents is what also fueling this shift. I would say post pandemic there is a lot of collaboration coming from the parents, because they were homeschooling them. So when they were de-attached from school and home, but when COVID happened, the homeschooling has made them connected to a lot of things. They got to know what teachers is teaching. They got to hear what's happening. So there is a lot of walls which is broken, and parents become a part of co-teaching process some way. Okay, and making them into learn together through a parent and school approach. So post COVID, that conversation also had them included into the whole program. Okay, they get to know different sides of their kids also, which they may usually only based on PTM could not have connected to. So that also has been a very key indicator to the shift of all what we do today has been shifting from the parents as a key stakeholder. And the third thing which I was mentioning about future readiness, it is very very important in that idea that future readiness is everyone is trying to see, because it's so blur. It is so speedy. Today information age was about 25, 28 years only. Okay, intelligence age maybe another 10 years, meta intelligence would be another 5 years only. So the whole age shifting because of technology is coming very rapid. So there is so much to see, absorb, and act upon. So what path should I take which will make my future better, because that's how your future becomes the future. So reading between the signals to trains, mega trains, connecting them, and connecting to the human what fits to them. Again, it's very personalized approach. So future readiness is what I feel, another shift which takes around. So all of this, and also because at the same time you want to be globally competent. It is, the world is not only in your own localness, it's a globally connected one. So in that context, how we prepare for future is what I feel also helping fueling this shift into the parents role to become decision makers in learning and learning spaces both. Recently with a school we did a what do you call it, space which called a parent studio. Okay, now in the school close to principal's area there is a parent studio where parents can come, co-create, they have the voice now. So they become a third stakeholder. So it's like three-way bridge: student, school body, and parents. Okay, so the parent studio has been mostly used for that. Their ideations, their thinking, their contribution, all of this is getting included into this area. So I think all this is what trying to shift a physical environment, or let's say the soft environment into the school, and that demands the change of pedagogy, change of place, change of people, all that. So I feel it is where we see their contribution a lot.
Thank you, Yogi sir, for raising the point of informed parenting in this digital age. And that also reminded me of one article penned by Lavanya ma'am on the digital monsters after the pandemic. I read that. So let's move on to the next question for Kirti ma'am. Ma'am, the question coming up to you is, with your focus on integrating sustainability and innovative ideas in the built environment, how do you see parents increasing awareness of environmental impact and future readiness influencing their expectations of educational spaces and
Oh,
practices? Please, ma'am.
that's a big question. Thank you so much. Well, I think, today's parents themselves are very well exposed, if not to the educational system, but largely to the world and largely to the buildings that they see across the world, because they are traveling well. They are not just traveling inside the country, but they are traveling overall, across the world. They see things, they understand things, and they can put two and two together in the sense what was the school that looked like in the US or in the Europe, and how is it? Partially, there is always going to be this comparison, a check. So essentially, what parents have realized is, those days are gone where, I want my child to be an engineer, doctor, or, those career skill sets are no longer the ones that parents are looking out for. They want their children to grow in an environment or learn in an environment which focuses not just on academics, but everything else along with academics as well. Because of this, parents want institutions to be like live class. They don't want it to be like just a building space. They want it to be alive with examples. So, a space that is daylit, a space that has playgrounds, a space that has areas for experimenting with various things. So this is where, I think parents want the schools to become more big, more like theater, and more like spaces that can involve the various learning activities. So essentially, they want playgrounds, want a library, they want a classroom, they want a studio, they want school to be better. What I think, me being here, essentially, we start assessing schools. I have a toddler back at home. Go out as a parent, not just as an actor, to see truly there is daylight coming to school, truly whether the windows can open, truly whether there is natural ventilation in school or no. Are there grab rails? Safe when they're walking around? What's the kind of ergonomics the school follows? Become important, and knowingly, unknowingly, subconsciously, I'm passing on things and the same sensitivity to my, and I know that is how they're going to learn. So essentially, now becoming extremely ingrained in every part of school and every part of the environment that the school is becoming of.
No, truly, that's very important. I feel what Kirti is sharing is people who knows it, he start looking it from the different lenses, and that's just
True.
contributing to the shaping the environment into next level, of course.
So I'll just small example here. We were shortlisting schools for my child, and hopskick through 2 3 schools where there was parent sessions where they tell you what is the program. Honestly, I have very limited knowledge of Montessori's and the Waldorfs and the other study patterns. But the one thing that stays with me is the school is a place where children are going to be there for 12 years of their life. That is going to have impact on. So, a particular school they have, and when I was and I see facade or the window, and they say that they can operate the windows, the architect says not true. Somebody tells me ventilation, and for me, I know there's a window come in, move around. So I think these is how look would be a building, not flashy looking building, but I want something that's more alive, where kids can sit, fall, sit, activity, and that make them that is not a person to life is more than that.
Yeah, I would love to add to that, Kirti, because I think that is so important, especially as schools are starting to move more towards digital technologies. And what you don't want is a school where your child is in front of a screen for 8 hours a day, right? Just learning from the screen and not interacting with other children, not having time to play outside, not having that literally that activity that keeps children developing and growing, right? So it's one of the biggest risks, I would say, with the move towards digital, is where schools start to forget how important that is. And so
I think
everything that you're
we
saying about the environment and the, just being able to breathe fresh air and be outside and use a library, like those are all really important skills for children.
I think technology should remain to teachers mostly rather than kids, because that can help them observe deeper, understand them deeper, personalize deeper. Then kids having that in early ages, because if that can be shaped and that can be twisted as a guided path, can create a better solution for them.
So these points on digital learning and the digital ecosystem, of course, gave a nice conclusion to the first theme. And now we have got a second theme that is, of course, related to this only. So the second theme coming up is designing for seamless collaboration and safe digital learning. So the first question goes to Lavanya ma'am. This would be your favorite, of course. So as children increasingly use digital technologies for learning, what safety factors should parents consider, and how can parents and schools work together to make digital learning safe? Over to you.
So this is a really important question. Online safety is actually becoming a huge and evolving concern for both parents and for schools. Because the use of technology means that, of course, children are learning some things online, but they're also spending a lot of time playing games. And they're interacting with friends via social media, and even EdTech has a lot of social features. So you can play games on EdTech with other friends and other people, and chat with them and things like that. So what we are finding now is that the online world is becoming increasingly unsafe for children. And with the introduction of AI on top of everything else that already existed, it is even more unsafe. And so, I think one of the things that people don't realize is that even a simple gaming platform like Roblox, for example, it's rampant with predators and pedophiles looking to exploit young children. And it's the same with social media. So if you think about, apps like Snapchat, for example, they have so many legal cases right now against them because of the exposure to pornography for children, because there are predators there, because they are able to, people are able to sell drugs to young children that are literally killing them. And so it is a very big risk when you give a child a device, whether it's a computer or it's a phone. It is actually a big risk. And so as parents, it becomes really important for us to first of all know what those risks are and understand them, and then set up really robust parental controls for children. And this also has to be done hand in hand with the school. So there are many situations where the school might block a certain type of gaming website or harmful websites, but that is not blocked at home. right? Or the reverse happens where parents are very strict at home and they don't give their children devices, but as soon as the child is at school, they have access to a computer and they can go on any website, right? It's not being managed effectively. So I think what people need to realize is that these types of inappropriate exposures for children are impacting their mental health in very profound and permanent ways. And we are seeing children being depressed at a younger age. We are seeing children having much higher levels of anxiety, or thoughts of suicide. And so it's actually quite scary when you think about it. And so one of the things that Silana Learning has done is we've created an online program for parents on how to protect children online, which we did because we realized that while parents may know conceptually that these apps, social media, and gaming platforms, and just access to a computer can be harmful or there are risks, parents don't have the time to go in and say, how do I set up Microsoft family safety and make sure that I block all the sites I need to block, and that I'm putting time limits, and similarly for Apple devices. And then a lot of the gaming apps and platforms like Roblox, and also social media platforms like TikTok or Instagram and Snapchat, they actually do offer parental controls, and people don't really know how to go in and set those up. And so our course actually walks people through that and parents through that step by step by video, so that people can learn that. And I think that's going to be a very important thing for parents and also schools to be aware of. And the other side of this is that schools need to educate their teachers, so that when teachers are in a classroom and children are using devices and iPads or tablets and things like that, they know the risks and they understand how to monitor and how to support children and keep them focused, so that they are not getting distracted, they are not playing games instead of doing what they're supposed to do, and so on and so forth.
So this also reminds me of Steve Jobs, who, after the launch of iPad, also told that we don't allow our kids to use iPad at home. This is quite dangerous for them. He counted the impact of the screen and the blue colors and on those things. So thank you, Lavanya ma'am, for raising all those points. So the next question coming up for Kirti ma'am is, given your expertise in sustainable building practices and architectural education, how can the physical design of learning spaces inherently encourage and facilitate collaboration between parents, educators, and students, while also embedding principles of sustainability and innovation?
Okay. Personally, I believe that spaces are the center stage for learning. A child starts school at 3 years of age and till 15. The first move, if 12 years of his or life want to be spent in building, want to give him or her vision to all of the see. And always believe and as professional. It's water harvesting. Other things in the engineer and learn and see how you can apply it at home. It's nothing to say or at beauty. One thing to say and it actually see it in class. This
I think we had some network issue and we lost touch with Kirti ma'am. So we'll continue with Yogi sir. Yogi sir, we have a question for you. So, what specific design principles or innovative approaches is CIVOM adopted to build learning environments that are truly collaborative classrooms where parents feel welcomed and empowered to participate both physically and conceptually in shaping a sustainable and future ready learning journey?
Okay. So I would put it this way. As we used to say, it takes a village to raise a kid. But it better come with Wi-Fi, flexible chairs or seatings, and compost bin together. This is what I believe has a crux of it. So I believe the principles which we really work around is today the world is going to be super collaborative. We were been grown in competition, but our workspace demands collaboration. Right away. So you go there and they would say, work with these teams together, and we're mentally not prepared to do that. So that has to be a key principle inside the whole idea when you're designing or starting this. So it has to be a co-created space based on the people around it. Okay. So whenever we go, we try to look in deeper observations between all the stakeholders. Okay. Try to see what culture they're coming with. Okay. Can we follow that culture route inside the design? So think of it, if we are removing our shoes at the home, okay, can it be done into the classrooms or in this, in the community where they're going to? Because that is where they associate it in the way it is needed to be. So also there is an advantage, and there is nourishment to the physical body because of that also. So what we can keep up from their culture, which is contextual to the learning of the learners. We try to take a lot of transparency in the area when we talk about it. So the moment you break the walls between two adults, your tone changes, your volume changes, your exposure changes. So when two teachers together, four teachers teach together, the whole environment is a very different shift. So the way, if you are a facilitator versus when you are a director, or when you are teacher, in that sense, when you have this content, the whole shift changes out. So a lot of designs which we'll do look at is are paired in classrooms. Okay, our community in a classroom, there's a lot of flexibility moving from one to another. So transparency led environment is what we also try to get into the zones, because the moment I see it, okay, that also seen by parents when they go into these spaces, because what happens between the four walls cannot be seen. And the moment you put a camera, you try to look at it from a supervision point of view, or you look at surveillance point of view, which is not a point. The idea is adult has to feel in that way that it becomes transparent to each other. So the environment has to give that feel of transparency, which I believe. So that's one part. For parents, we try to build third spaces in the class, in the school community, so where they can come work there. They should not have waiting areas. Okay, they, instead of treating them as a customers or clients for school, okay, if you treat them as a co-creator, because again, it's the part of that kid's real life. Okay, and both of has to come together to understand where school is leading it, where parents can support it out. So we create a lot of spaces in the areas which is more for parents inside this. So it may be a co-working studio or co-discussions, everything, which is where we school body and parents can come together. Instead of teacher telling the idea, that what happens in their performance, student himself inform their parents that what I have gone through, because the way he or she would share would try to give them the right reflection of, is she hiding something, is she's deliberate upon her appreciations, not showing the weaknesses. And that is where the real work is needed. Okay, so not having a PTM, but student driven performance. Okay, exhibition areas for parents can come together, so they can do projects together, because there's the kind of programs which we are working and designing for is based on project based learnings, where they pick projects from the outside society, take it in their schools, so where parents are also involving, they're letting their factories get visited, or taking some problems. So all of this is kind of co-creation together. And then another thing is sustainability materials is what we are now getting into practices. So bamboos, from MP is very famous. So if we can put this bamboo driven products, okay, giving that ecology connections between the spaces. Okay, so like Kirti was mentioning, spaces which doesn't have this sunlight, where we are feeling that a lot of that agriculture background is what needed to be in the schools. Because if everything would be on Blinkit, we never know, or our kids never would know how tomato is grown. So that's also a part that is needed to be taken in the considerations. So yeah, this is what a few things which I feel makes very strong sense for parents to be included in when you design the spaces for.
So before we resume the question to Kirti ma'am, Lavanya ma'am and Kirti ma'am, I have an example that I have heard from Yogi sir quite long time back. that event management and all is quite new in our city. In rural areas, whenever they have any marriage or any function, all the village and all people come together to do everything. Every small work is done by the village. That was an example of co-creation. Yogi sir, you told me long
Yes,
time back.
because see, in those rural areas, your communities, they shift their roles. So if I have a function, others would become the organizers. If they would have a function, others would become an organizer. So it of course shift that way.
Perfect, perfect. So
Yes.
yeah, Kirti ma'am, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah, can we please resume your answer? Like you were also telling about waste, telling waste management is one thing, and getting in it into practice is one thing. Please, ma'am, resume.
Right. I was what was to and teach example, and before we have when we bins or by what and uh,
No,
Ma'am,
there's
you are
little.
indeed audible, but the voice is like wavering. The pitch is there.
uh, I and maybe you can I'm
Yeah, yeah. No issues. I'll come back to you. Okay. So that calls for the conclusion of the second theme. Let's move on to the final theme where we'll have common questions to all the panelists. So the final theme coming up is known as empowering future learners through partnership. So the common question to you all is how do stronger parent educator partnerships enhanced by thoughtful design, be it spatial, digital or curricular, including sustainable practices and digital safety, directly impact the learning outcomes and holistic development of children, making them more resilient, adaptable and future ready global citizens. So yeah, yeah, you're completely audible. If you can go ahead, please. So in the meanwhile, Lavanya ma'am, if you could please take it up.
Yeah, so I think Yogi made a very good point of how do schools make space for parents, right? So there are many schools where there is a boundary and a parent can literally not enter the school or be part of any conversation other than the parent-teacher meetings. And I think that's a philosophy that has worked well for many years. But now, as parents are becoming more involved in their children's lives and education and more aware of sort of this global thinking around education, parents do want a voice. So I think where schools are working to introduce spaces, and whether they are studios or there are ways for parents to come in and volunteer in the school, and share some of their own expertise with the children, or whether it is through well organized conferences and meetings with parents and educators together, just to hear some of the concerns. I think that creates a very positive environment in the school, and builds a really strong community between parents and educators. I think the old thinking around parents should not be involved, and the school is the school and the home is the home, I think that has shifted a lot. So people do need to be in schools, and administrators do need to be thinking about how to bring that parent voice in, because when you don't do that, what's happening now is parents will complain on a WhatsApp group, and there will be a lot of chatter about something that's not working, and this is why is this happening at school. And that's the negative side of it, right? But when you bring people in and you have those conversations openly, I think it creates a more positive community experience for everyone. Um, and so that's from just the one perspective. The other side of it is, of course, around digital technologies, and schools and parents need to be thinking together around how important is it to have something, a way for children to learn something digitally. So is it better, like for example, maybe language which you don't have a local teacher to teach, maybe that is something that you want to encourage children to, use an online platform and learn digitally. But maybe mathematics is not something that is as valuable when it's learned online, and you want teachers to be able to bring things into the classroom, and sit with children and see what they understand and where they are struggling, versus just getting an answer right? Because a lot of the thinking that happens and the critical thinking skills that children develop when they're trying to solve a difficult problem, that's where the learning happens. It's not necessarily in just getting an answer right. So I think that's where parents need to continue to sort of challenge schools and not just accept that, okay, now everything is happening online and my child, will not have as much input from a teacher, and so on and so forth. So those are the two areas where I think a lot of collaboration and conversation needs to happen.
Yogi sir, before I bring this question over to you,
Yes.
so you, as I know, you have spent a great part of your school life in hostels, right? While you were away from home. So until now, we have been talking about kids who are being dropped by parents or from the conveyance. So what about those kids who are away from their home? They live in hostels or boarding schools. Please, your take on it.
No, I think the real growth is under supervision, but not. I would say under passive supervision, not a direct supervision. That's where the real growth works around. People who learn out of schools in real life, their growths are amazing. Okay, that's where dropouts gets one of the best path. But there is a risk of getting dropouts into something else also. So passive supervision is what I would always say is a greater path to really grow in this society, because if I'm sensing the real condition of the ground reality, will make me grow in the worldly affair. Okay, if I don't know those context, I don't know how people behaves at different conditions. And so when you are in protected environment versus not protected environments, okay, so eventually you're going to get there. The school's role is to prepare for that. Okay, parents role is prepare for that societal roles when they're going to get into the worldly affairs. Okay, so how that can be co-built in either a school environment, okay, or can co-built into a way that you can get a passive supervision and you can learn out of it. Okay, so I feel without this it's never ever going to get through. So in hostels also we feel we are being passively supervised, but we don't have parents going there intervening every day, teachers going there intervening every day. So you have a lot of decision making by your own self, and that gives you a power to lead and really reflect and work around. You raise your hands and say this is my mistake. You raise your hands and that's my contribution. So you take that ownerships, you take that accountability, which is letting you lead to grow forward, which is where I feel that's how it has to be. Because if you don't allow your kids, so when we were kids we used to cycle for 5 kilometers, or take a cross country 3 kilometers every day. Today, as a father, I may not leave my kid in city like Indore to travel 3 kilometers to schools by cycle. Okay, and that may be my fear. But how it can be passively supervised and given that authority, because she eventually had to go and move out. And how would you be that day when it is actually going to happen? So that's how you have to try and see it. So I believe that's one part of it. So when we look at this whole co-created parental aspect of it, I feel the moment a school's vision has been very openly decided, shared with parents, uh, and then discussed in depth, if school has an intent that would reflect and that would change. It is not that you need to satisfy every parent around it. Of course there are core meanings which people understands and it can be built together, which is where I feel this three-way idea is actually going to help us. Okay, and it is very much reflected as a parent. If I go to a school like Kirti was mentioning about that she can dissect between what happens. So as a parent, when I go to a school, I try to see when they talk about what pedagogy they have and connecting to the physical space, it is can you check it out? So the moment you said PBL, how a PBL environment would look like, a TBL, or any pedagogy which a teacher uses, how that environment would look like, and it can be easily seen. So if a school really believes in their vision, portrays that, and create that, it can be created together with parents also. There's no room to hide around it. So that's an approach which can be taken with the collaboration and transparency to the parents. I would add to Lavanya's thinking that every great learning journey, behind every curious child, there is always a WhatsApp group, which invest into that. So, which is what makes this, the feedback based loop to the school. No.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I agree.
No, great. Kirti, you were saying something. Yes, let's continue. I think we had some disturbance. Yeah.
Proving that should not be
Yes.
technology
Yeah.
is such a tremendous exposure that is happening. And it is exposure. I
I think-
No issues. We'll welcome her back as soon as she's back.
No, I
So,
think so. See, point is, over this, times when we were talking about all that, school has to give a feel to parents, students, that you matter. That's what a key idea is, that when you're coming here, you matter for us. Okay, if anyone feels like that, you can rebuild around it. Okay, you are welcomed here. If it is not there, it will be approached differently. We have, when you have multiple gates, that for this you have to talk to him, you have to go through this path, and all of this is, as a cultural value, don't give them a feedback that you matter. It is never a co-creation. you know be n number of people, be SPOC, be, you can have one person, multiple person, doesn't make a difference. But that feeling of anyone who's talking to them shows that you are part of our system. And if you can reflect that, it will be a collaborative approach. Till the point you said you are the payer and we are the receiver, it would never work around. The moment it becomes that we are, we welcome you, it's a different story.
so during our school days, other than the PTM, we were quite afraid or super scared to bring our parents to school because we knew that the teachers would talk about our mischiefs, about our notoriety. So at least now the changes are being done to welcome the parents. So,
No, I think,
Kirti,
see, there's a lot of context around it. Earlier, we knew there was a lack of knowledge. Teachers were working as a source of knowledge, and they were offering that source of knowledge to kids. Okay, and they were supposed to train them for those skills. Okay, so I think those were the periods for training and scaling, versus the today's world is more about learning, identifying who you are as a person in a school or in an environment. The moment I get to know who am I as an individual, okay, that's where the biggest problem is solved. I will get my life path, I'll get my passion, I will get my gifts around it. So that knowledge is what more important, because content is everywhere. Okay, but if I get to know that who am I as a person, is the one thing which is what I should school's key goal to be. Rather than preparing them for occupation, they should prepare them for self elevation. If I can understand myself, that's a beautiful thing a school can do for an individual.
Kirti ma'am, if you would like to add, please.
I think making these points about schools, parents, and children are like,
So, should I take?
Good.
Should
Technology
I
is
continue?
giving you time today.
So, should I take on the next question until then?
Yeah, if you have, yeah, why not?
Yeah. So the next question, again, a common question. Like, what are some actionable strategies that schools, parents, and designers can implement to cultivate these partnerships effectively, ensuring every child benefits from a truly collaborative and sustainably minded learning ecosystem? So, let's start with Kirti, ma'am.
Well, you
Finally.
can, I think you have to repeat the question.
Okay,
No,
okay,
no.
I'll do it.
Yes, yes.
Finally, I think I have just successfully crossed all my digital hassles today and my network hassles today. So I think I'm very thrilled.
You
Um,
you built a technical bridge now.
oh God, ask me about it completely, completely. I've been just battling on it in the backstage. I'm sorry, I know we are live, but yeah, I'm
No, that's
celebrating my success. Thank
no,
you very
that's
much.
good.
I think I want to elaborate more on the previous two questions, which I really couldn't contribute much on. So I think, like I was saying, the school has to be a living outline and a case study by itself. And that's very important, and it will come alive through the way the school is designed and the way it is built. Okay, now in a space starved city or in a space crunch city that we all live in, it's very difficult to have playgrounds, very difficult to have specific areas for specific activities. So it's important to assess, can we change the roof setups, can we integrate some play zones on the roof or turf areas on the roof, can you have a necessary netting around it? And these actions can also, or these activities can help children indulge in a lot of physical activity. I was also saying before I crashed out a bit that personally, as a parent, I am very wary of the digital exposure the children are getting these days. I'm very uneducated in all the threats that Lavanya ma'am was mentioning. Honestly, I think I'll have to connect with you separately to understand what all these things are, to kind of equip myself better as a parent. But I think digital exposure largely is more gratifying rather than teaching at that age. It's very important to learn to cut a paper than to just snip a paper online. It's very important to learn the coloring as an activity, the kind of pressure, the kind of crayon, a pastel, a pencil color, a paper, a sketch pen, a brush, and the difference it can offer in terms of what you create, rather than just having a click and a color fill icon on the activities. So I think it's very important to be able to give more physical opportunities to children, to let them run, play. It's okay to become sweat soaked and still not go into an AC classroom. I think today's parents have to also become very resilient. Rather than demanding that schools should have an air conditioning and an air conditioned bus to ply them from home to school. It's okay if your child is sweat soaked. You can just wash him or her after he comes back. I think as parents, our role is the strongest, because the school is going to provide what you ask for or what you demand. Even eventually they will give in to the demand, as of parents. But as parents, if you're resilient, and let your children fall, let your children have scratched knees, let your children be wet, sweat soaked, they will learn. We all learned, we are all doing good. So it's important to do that as a collaborator. And I was saying that it's important to be a tripartite arrangement, for a parent, a student, and a child are like a triangle. And development will happen when you have the center stage reached, or if you have, reached that sweet center spot in a triangle. So that to me is the way we should look at things. I mean, I've seen even in our parents groups, parents are extremely wary about what did they eat, what did they do. Let them be, they'll be fine. And as far as the schools are concerned, if they can start educating children not just in the curriculum, but the importance of physical activity by having programs around a physical activity thing. I mean, in our times we had a sports program, a sports period, and it was that there was nothing beyond a sports period. But if you can have sports integrated as a part of the curriculum, if you can convert your staircases into something colorful that encourage children to take the stairs and take the stairs down, create some meaningful signages around the schools, that is putting education in a case study format for children to learn, not just through textbooks, not just knowing sustainability through slideshows or through various books, but seeing it happen. I mean, I'm surprised actually. My 5-year-old tells me that, Mama, there is climate change. And I'm like, I am, taken aback. I'm a sustainability professional myself. But it's beautiful to know that the school is telling them that there are 17 SDGs, which is a sustainable development goal. If you ask me as a professional, I am still gaping to understand what are the 17 ones and how they are connected. But it's the school is making the difference, and I'm very happy to put that on record for them. Um, I mean, I give you for the next question, Akshay. I think I was very excited after a long back and forth in the call, and I just spoke my heart out.
So while you were saying that we used to have a sports period in school, so I recalled those moments when during our annual function, 0 day was announced in our schools, and from morning until noon it was all sports periods,
Wonderful.
no sitting in class. Yeah, so those were the days. And yes, while you were also talking about those space constraints in the cities, so I remember while talking to Dr. Vinod Gupta again that he told that in cities like Mumbai or even Delhi or say Bangalore where they have space constraints, why don't we use these learning spaces as flexible layouts where these can also be used by the communities? So that brings me to Lavanya ma'am. Please, ma'am, your contribution for this question.
Yeah, 1,000%. I think that's a very good point because when you open spaces up for communities, to come in and to join in, I think that is very valuable for people, in the community. It's sort of a very good use of school space because school is, only during certain number of hours. So I think when you start to think like that more creatively, it's a very good use of space and of a school environment which is hopefully open and sort of encourages thinking and learning and development for everyone in the community. I think that's a really important point. I know that in my children's schools, after school is done, you can rent the space for conferences. You can rent the space to come in and have talks. Many parents organize themselves voluntarily to do, sort of community talks about topics that are not related to parenting, actually, that are related to developing your own business, for example, or growing yourself professionally. And these are really interesting, and they're open for parents, but they're also open to other people who want to sign up and join in these conversations. And I think it's a beautiful way to encourage the community to interact with a school and with those spaces.
And Yogi, so what's your take on the actionable strategies that schools, parents, and designers can implement to cultivate these partnerships? And as Kirti ma'am told that tripartite agreement or the partnership.
No, see, yeah, this is what is actually needed in terms of when we look at it. I always start, who is the leader? When you start a school, they are leading the game. Okay. When they are choosing that lead, how bigger they are thinking around the whole canvas. Okay. So a designer would act upon the brief what a school, would give it to them. Okay. So how bigger their vision would be. Okay. So the moment a school decides the vision, which is, larger, greater, deeper, is where it starts around. So I feel like what Lavanya is sharing about community being in the schools only can be taken when a school has that vision that they want to go that broader. Okay, designers only can go deeper in the context when they know that the classroom is not like rows and columns of desk and chair. It is a classroom where you have experimented areas, where you have library inside the classroom. The kids need not to wait for a library period, where they need not to go to or waiting for experiment area laboratories. So all when the moment you go deeper, you'll have the deeper access. A designer can do it for you, but if a school doesn't envision this, it would never come there. Okay. The third way is I would say uh, with the parents also, how strongly they wanted to context around. Okay, if they want to have their voice, they would go and talk to 150 parents, going their homes and try to see what is their environment inside the house, where they think these kids can go to, what are the mileage they can take this. So the as a decision maker, school has to go all those dimensions, traveled Once they travel it out, the brief would come, designers would contribute to that deeper sense. Okay. The parents would contribute to that way. Okay. A school building itself would contribute to the other community areas. Okay. So it is where the leader who's taking that vision and taking it step by step way would be defined around. I know I was in Australia, and I figured out they have community libraries. Okay, a beautiful concept that every community has a library where you can go. This is done by public systems. Okay, you can go learn. You can have your classes. You can get anyone invited there. You can read books. So it's a productive way of society to grow together. Okay, now. India, I often argue with municipal commissioners or corporators, or wherever I get a chance to talk to mayors also, that why don't we have something like this, where this whole productive way of leading your leisure hours can be given. Our reading habits can increase. All of that what we can do is productive system can go where more knowledgeable people, human libraries can come in the place where you can get to learn from other humans. Okay, so where is this physical space available for us? Where does this community exist into those physical environments? So yeah, of course, school can do that. Okay, communities or community centers can do this, publics can do this, but I think again it starts with sparking that vision where we want our society to go to, and all that can be leaded. So I believe designers when come and when they understand, if I would go, all of us has a very strong role to take decisions for the guys who's going to use that. Our users are not decision makers. Learners don't have the power what space to go into. It's the parents who's pushing them, it's the school who's pushing them, it's designers who's pushing them. So all of us has to have a bigger responsibility, because our users is not talking to us. He's very much hidden in the whole layers. He's muse for us. Okay, so all of us has that responsibility who's contributing to him, that understand him in the central context. If it has been taken, all that can be pushed from our side also. We can reform the visions also. But yeah, this is how I try to say it.
So, after all this discussion, I'll let Kirti ma'am be the MS Dhoni of our session and please put the final thoughts.
Thank you so much. Again, I think we start with a design. Every development starts with a particular vision, and the vision shapes the design. Uh, Eventually, the school gets built as a physical entity, and things continue to happen. But what is important for a continuous learning is engagement. I think it's important for the schools to, take occupant surveys, as we call them, as take parental surveys, take surveys from students, take surveys, have age appropriate surveys taken with the different stakeholders to understand what is their experience of the space, what is their experience of the programs and activities that are getting undertaken in the school. And once we have a lot of these surveys taken, the answers can be very informative or like an eye opener to the next set of schools or to the next set of development or to the next set of program curation that needs to happen. Essentially, this opens what we in our professional term call this as a post occupancy evaluation. A post occupancy evaluation is a good tool to set the context for the next drawing board, okay, or to set the context of a next level design. Secondly, it's important, again, I will always say lead by example. Call your parents, have them engage with the students, tell them, let the parents as professionals, tell the students what the outside world looks like, what are the kind of opportunities the students have in the world outside. So once these collaborative activities become a part of their, activity planner across the year, or year planner or a curriculum planner, that is when parents start feeling involved. That is when the students start feeling that the school is not just a rote medium of education, but a platform to what happens, or what is awaiting them in the future outside. I have seen a lot of schools invite parents for dental camps, or for hygiene or physical developments, or for the coming of age development discussions with young girls and young boys. But one has to go beyond that. What happens in engineering? What happens in interior designing? What happens in architecture? What do you do? What do I do in my profession? If that can be, shown as a trailblazer to a 9th standard student or a 10th standard student, I think that is going to set the stage. It's important for them, to know that there is a active and a live world beyond the digital world that we all know of, and that is what is going to matter a lot to them as they grow. So, additionally, in fact, it will be good to put on record that a lot of schools can have their sustainability quotient assessed. So, there are factors, or there are agencies like the Indian Green Building Council or IGBC who have specific programs like Green School, wherein they have a checklist to assess the physical entity of the school, if not the curriculum entity, because sometimes, like we all know, curriculum entity is management driven or the request driven, or area driven. I may not be an educated person to speak on the curriculum aspect of the school, but when it comes to the physical stature of the school, the building, the site, the playgrounds, then there are agencies or checklists like IGBC or green schools. So if schools can proactively assess themselves, they will know what are the physical aspects of their own campus that they can improve on or they can become better. So with, and then once a gap is identified, they can make student specific programs to engage or to become better. So for example, when it comes to having on a world environment day, the easiest thing to do is have plantation. Okay, or on a world environment day, the easiest thing to do is bring your own cup, bring your own water bottle. But can we start putting numbers to it, that when you use 1 cup of 1 cup, what are the number of trees that you're affecting, and therefore you should bring your own cup. When you're wasting water, if you're wasting so much, or potentially have energy management, water management scenarios in place. Educate the students as how facility management can be done, and teach them that how they can take care of the water use, and what happens if you've saved so much of water, what is it that it is giving back to the community. So by doing such collaborative activities, or by doing such programs with children, they are one, becoming a better institution themselves, two, learning to manage their own institutional consumption, and three, exciting the children to know that this is how the world requires management. There is no rocket science in energy management. Commercial buildings, if you ask me, do the same things. Residential buildings, if you ask me, do the same things. As parents, somewhere we are not giving the stage to our children. We think they will they understand, समझेंगे क्या ये लोग, इनको आएगा क्या, ये करेंगे क्या. But I think they're much smarter. So let's just open up these collaborations with these young kids, and that will make them better professionals. They will become more emphatic and more how do I say, learn to take accountability of things and become better professionals themselves. So my collaborations will always focus more on operations, will always focus more on how the children can learn in the school through these programs, and know that this is the way to go forward ahead. That's all from me.
Now, I would like to add from a very different context of it, because it's a Parents' Day, and I would like to have that message, sent. As a parent, also we really need to think deeper. That before being a parent, do we really want to be a parent?
Oh, true that.
You know,
Absolutely. That's a very, very deep statement to make. Very,
and
very important statement.
yeah, yeah. Because and if you really want to be a parent, how ready you are for that? Because I believe parenting should come with a license. In today's context, yeah. It needs a lot of that effort, because you had to sacrifice a lot of you, and then take someone else ahead. Okay, so that needs a lot of mental stability, push time hours, everything. So it needs a sacrifice, which is very important for so when I say, to raise a kid, you need a village, and you had to be very key part of that, because there's a lot of, as a nuclear family, it's a very different load to you. So, and a lot of your work pressure goes to kids, a lot of other pressure goes somewhere else. So it has to be very strong mental stability, which you need to be a parent. So I always say, if you really want to be a parent, try a pet. Okay, and see, can you manage that? Okay, you still can disown a pet, but not a kid. So it's a very strong thinking as a parent. Second, when you demand for anything from a school also, or in any other community around you, as a parent, you need to really see, what is that they also need to imbibe inside as a citizen. Okay, what is that compromise we as a community, as a parent community, should take, we our kids should take. So like when Kirti was mentioning, it's okay to have sweaty shirts, but point is, when you look at all of this, it's how resilient you want them to be. Okay, how tough you want them to become. Okay, so comfort is, of course, that balance between comfort versus resilience is what we need to think around, because this is very early formative years. So when you know a lot about the pedagogies, methods, physical space, one also need to know how a cognitive performance gets built from 0 to 17 years. Okay, what should be right age for Olympics, for that matter, what should be route foundational and formative ages for us. So it will also give you a context about what is more important, because if I don't have that resilience for sports or physical activities, I may not allow their bones built, or their skin built. All of this is very important part of immunity systems also. So this is what my message to all parents, that if you are a parent, look deeper. If you are not, then think deeper. That really, can you be, or you should be, or not.
Oh, that was an applause-worthy answer from Kirti ma'am, and now I'm short of words because we got a QOTD, the quote of the day from Yogi sir for Global Parents Day. That before becoming a parent, let's ask ourselves, do I really want to be the
So,
parent?
just a
So
statement to add
that
here. I think it's a very beautifully written passage by by the poet Khalil Gibran. Your children are not your children. Okay, it's very deep as he says is that your children are not yours. They are the world's children. They are just coming into the world through you. So you are just a passage of one soul coming from a universe to make an impact on the universe that they are living in. So I think I agree with you, Mr. Yogi, as you say that as parents we need to understand whether we are really there. And importantly is we need to sow the seeds of resilience in our children for tomorrow. I mean, because we don't know what the world is going to be. I mean, in the last span of 100 or 150 years, the digital world has grown and we are what we are. In the next 100 years, we don't know what kind of digital challenges or, other level of emotional challenges the kids are going to face. So resilience is what I would want to put out as that it's very important to have resilience. It's very easy to demand things from school, but do we do the same things back at home? Is it fine to have the same things done back at home? Is something that so a constant self reflection and self assessment is important before we make any ask outside.
No, because see, the world which we are going to, I had seen examples, and if you look it from past, if you want to really build a beautiful future, whenever we had seen overprotective parents and the kids, okay, because the kind of control they have over kids and the kind of growth a kid has when there's protective parents is very different. Either he'll start frustrating because he's not allowed, if he's outgrowing. If he's ingrowing, he will start getting more depressed, because he's not able to take the worldly affairs in the way it can be. So all of this, like, resilience is a very strong word, that way, that we need to grow in the real world. And as a parent, like, I love Khalil on that it is important, it is worldly kid. You have to leave them at one point. Okay, animals protect their kids in one period. Okay, and once they feel they're able to fly, or they're able to walk freely, they are been left. So that's the kind of level which we also have to define in certain way. So yeah.
perfect, perfect. So, after an incredible discussion that calls for the conclusion, and I must thank all the panelists for reiterating the power of collaboration between parents and design in shaping future learners with a nod to sustainability and digital well being. To all the listeners tuned in live from different parts of the world, thank you for joining us live. And let me also extend my heartfelt thanks to Lavanya ma'am, Kirti ma'am, and Yogi sir for joining this session and adding so many insights to this session. So thank you so much to everyone for joining us, and let's tune in to the channels of CIVOM on all the platforms, and let's see what happens next, what's coming next. Thank
Thank
you so much
you.
for joining us.
Thank you, everyone. Even post a lot of technical glitch, Kirti could edit uh, on the spot.
Resilience.
Yeah. That is it's beautiful to hear someone's thought, and so all great. Let's been connect, and thank you everyone for listening us.